Well, good evening, everybody. And you might notice that I'm peering at you through a window. Let's see, we got 7 folks that are joining us already. But thank you for joining us already for our Wednesday night Connect and Grow hour. And this is a Q&A discussion. Over the last several weeks, we've been doing a series on the media and the gospel, if I can get it right. We're taking a quick break from that, and we're having a Q&A this evening with Dr. Irish, who is Pastor Denny's wife. They are over to the side of me. I'm over in the corner. I've been banished. So, but
Take your face in the corner.
So you'll see a lot less of me, but we're going to be doing this Q&A, and as we get started, Pastor Denny, would you lead us in some prayer?
Absolutely. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I do thank you for your gracious mercy and your love that you've poured out on us. Father, I just ask that you would be with us tonight as we get to know Sherry a little bit, and just bless our conversation. Let it be of you. And I just lift this whole time to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, as we get started, like I said, guys, go ahead and chime in. This is a Q&A. We've got a couple questions that we're going to go over and talk about, just getting to know Dr. Irish. And that's my first question is, do you want to be called Dr. Irish, Dr. Kane Irish, Dr. Sherry Kane Irish, Mrs. Irish? What do you want to be called?
I just want to be called Sherry. That's
okay. Well, first question solved. Sherry, we'll be asking her some questions tonight. So if you have any questions, by the way, she is Pastor Denny's wife, and so I don't think we need to ask you whose wife you are. That I guess that could have been a question, but we're going to go ahead and jump right in. So, Sherry, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's see. I guess probably the most formative thing about me is I'm the youngest of 6 kids, so that explains a lot. Youngest by a long way. So my mom had 7 kids, or not 7. She had 5 kids in 7 years.
You're a math teacher?
Yeah, she had 5 kids in 7 years, and 7 years later had me. So I've been spoiled my whole entire life. So,
Really? She finally admitted it.
No,
you heard it.
I have always admitted that.
No.
So my brothers will defend me to their dying day. So, but yeah, I'm a teacher. I teach in Port Huron schools. I teach at Port Huron High. I'm the dreaded math teacher, but I also teach engineering and try to make those things fun. So, yeah, we have 4 kids and 1 granddaughter and 2 great in-laws.
So you have 1 granddaughter. Yeah, I'm going to be popping up on the screen now and then. How old's your granddaughter?
She is almost 9 months.
9 months.
But we haven't seen much of her with all of this quarantine and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's been rough on everybody.
Right. Yeah, they've been parenting only through the pandemic. So.
Oh, that's right.
They don't know how to find their way out of it yet. So.
So, how did you guys get to know? How did you guys meet?
Gosh, we met at Simpson Park Camp.
Simpson Park Camp. Absolutely.
I was 12.
Were you 12?
12.
Oh my gosh.
I was really young.
You were young.
We went to a campfire together.
So. And then we had kind of off and on for alternating years for a while, and then.
Yeah, I'd go to the campfires with him every other year. And
every other year, yep.
Somebody else the other years.
Yep. So it was traumatic for me.
Yeah.
We finally hooked up, and the rest is history, I guess, if you want to say that.
Yeah, we've been together. But, we've been married 39 years
39
almost.
years, yep.
So.
I called...
I'm only like 25, so that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
You've learned time travel.
I have. Yeah. It's one of my engineering projects.
Yeah. We can talk to you later when we do our media and science fiction stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Back to the Future, maybe.
Oh, yeah, we can do Back to the Future. That'd be perfect.
Or just basic fiction. That's lies.
So you have the word doctor in front of your name.
I do.
Even though you want to be called Sherry, I always default to addressing people by their titles because I know that is not an easy prefix to put at the front of your name.
Yeah, So it was something that I decided a long time ago. When my brother graduated from Western, we went to the graduation, and they had those doctoral candidates that were, getting their degrees. And I looked at my mom and said, I'm going to do that someday. And I was only about 13. And so it was just kind of a personal goal that I had. So, so I waited. I just did it in 2014. I finished in 2014.
So what are your credentials? I mean, where did you get your doctorate from, your master's and all that stuff?
Okay, so I did my undergrad at U of M Flint, and that was in math and science. And then I did my master's at Marygrove College, and that was in teaching. And then I did a specialist degree at Liberty University. That was in educational leadership, and then that just flowed into my doctorate, which was in leadership.
That's a lot of schooling.
It's a lot of schooling.
It's
yeah.
a lot of
I
schooling.
love schooling. So it was
You
good.
are a teacher, so
That's right.
yeah, it makes
That's
a lot of sense.
Right.
Well, when we first got married, Sherry was working at, it was Genesee Bank, but it
Yeah.
changed hands a few times. And so we had been married. Well, you were pregnant. Were you pregnant when you graduated?
No.
No, he
Nate
was a year old. He was a year old. She graduated in, must be 92 then.
91.
Well, he was born in February. You graduated in November?
December. Before that, yeah.
I always have to clear the stories with her, because, and you'll find.
He never keeps it straight.
I never keep it straight, right? But right after she graduated, we moved to Indiana for me to go back to school, and that's when I went to Goshen College. But
yeah, so pretty much until the last 4 or 5 years, somebody's always been in school.
Yep.
Between us.
Mm-hmm. One of us, you or me, would have been in school.
That's a long time to be in school.
It is,
So,
yeah. yeah.
Uncle Sam thanks us every time we write that
Yeah.
student loan check. But,
Well, we've got our first question from online from Brian Weber asking, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in a little town outside of Flint called Genesee. I went to Genesee schools. We lived right off Genesee Road, and it's in Genesee County. So, kind of just small town America. We moved there when I was a year old, and I lived there till I graduated high school, and then Denny and I lived there for a little while.
Yeah. Interesting fact, if you've ever ridden the Huckleberry Railroad,
Oh, yeah.
it would go, 2 blocks from our house.
Yeah,
When
it
it
woke me
comes
up
around.
every Saturday,
Yeah.
like clockwork.
When it come through town, it'd come right through the
Yeah.
Genesee there.
Yeah, so if you're
and-
familiar with Crossroads Village. that
Yeah.
was-
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, I'm having some fun switching this thing on and off. If you hadn't noticed, it was just kind of a snap decision that we'd use, kind of this format. And I don't know how successful it's been, because I know I'm looking across the room, and
Yeah,
sometimes it's difficult
I'm looking
to.
back at you.
Whatever. We're looking back to see if he was looking back to see.
So if they're looking, if they're looking over to their left, I guess, to their left, they're looking at me in the corner where I am banished. So thank you, Brian, for your question. And we've got a few more. From Melissa Jones, has the doctoral degree been worth it, or is it just cool to have the title coming from someone who has been debating becoming Dr. Jones?
Well, it is a pretty cool title. Of course, my students all say, so I don't feel well. Can you do something about that? Well, no, obviously I can't. But I don't know. Financially, it hasn't been really worth it. But it was pretty cool to do it. And like I said, I like education and I like learning. And so the things that I've learned leadership-wise have probably been used more outside of the classroom than anywhere else.
She, for her dissertation, she has, how many people did you say have used your dissertation in?
Yeah, my dissertation's been downloaded just shy of 2,000 times.
2,000
So-
times. So yeah. So other
Which
people
I
have
didn't
been
know.
using
I
it.
didn't know if that was a good benchmark or not. But I went back and looked at some of my cohorts, and theirs was like 200 or 300 times. So,
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm like, oh yay.
Can I ask what your dissertation covered?
Yeah, so it was on effective leadership traits of turnaround principles. So secondary principles.
Would you? I'm curious. Would you care to expand on a little? I know you not. Don't like give us your You don't have to do a defense here.
Yeah.
But
So the really interesting thing, turnaround principles were fairly new in Michigan with the race to the top when we went to NCLB and then race to the top with Obama. And so if your school was deemed a failing school, then you had to follow a turnaround model, which are based on things that work in the corporate world. And corporate doesn't always translate well to education.
Oh, man, imagine that.
Well, no, it's because education's arrogant and think they have the answers to everything. And if they just followed the corporate models, it probably would have been better. But so turnaround principles, it was fairly new when I did my research. And so I had limited access to them in my study. But the interesting thing was that a lot of them were first-time principals. They were made principals to come in and turn around a school. And so I thought that they weren't seasoned principals.
Yeah, that's a
So-
really, really interesting.
Well, I think it's
choice.
because they're more adaptable. and
Okay.
They look at things differently. So
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Have Brian Weber, who said, glad to hear you're a U of M grad. He meant
God blue.
Go Blue. Did that autocorrect get you?
Yeah, right.
Reference for last week, maybe? Anyone? All right, we have a question from Sandy Jones. I know you talked a little bit about where all the degrees you got came from.
Yeah.
But specifically your doctoral degree.
So my specialist in my doctoral degree came from Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. I did a good portion of it online, but then I also had to be on campus for 3 classes. I wish I could have been on campus for all of them because it's just beautiful down there. But yeah, the thing I liked the most about doing it through Liberty was it allowed me to have a Christian perspective on education and on even my research and all of that. So everything was looked at through not only your worldview but your biblical view as well. So
I've heard good things about their graduate and doctorate programs. So.
yeah, they have a few weird things, on campus, but but I didn't experience those. So
all right. Thank you, Sandy, for your question as well. Got another one from Brian. By the way, guys, keep on asking questions. We're gonna get to as many as we can until we hit 7:30, and we are only 12 minutes in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we got
bring
plenty
'em
of
on.
time. Would you care to share some of your testimony about coming to Christ?
yeah, so I would say that when I was 10 or 11, we got a new pastor at our church, and I went to Genesee United Methodist, and that's where I grew up, and we went to church every Sunday, but I wouldn't say that we lived a Christian life. We went to church. We were churchgoers. And we got a new pastor who was part of the revival movement that came out of Asbury in the 60s and 70s. And he and his wife took a large group of kids to Simpson Park Camp. And then my first experience, I was just going into 6th grade, was my first time at Simpson Park Camp. And I would say that it was, through the camp that, I made a commitment to Christ. But, when you live in a church-going home and not necessarily a Christian home, it's a struggle all the way through. So, it wasn't a super strong faith until I got older and could process all that on my own. I've always been a little headstrong and a little bit opinionated about things, and so I knew, I never joined the Methodist Church until I was an adult because at the time when you do your confirmation and you're 12 or whatever, the Methodist Church hadn't taken a stand on abortion, whether it should be right or wrong, and so I couldn't join a church that couldn't take a stand on that. So it wasn't until much later that I actually joined the Methodist Church.
So even when you were that young, you were critically thinking and
absolutely
making very pointed choices.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you make that distinction between a church-going person or a church-going family rather than necessarily a Christian or
right.
a Jesus following. Love to have conversations around that someday.
Yeah.
What but maybe this isn't the time or place for it.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I got something to add
Yeah,
to that
go
little
for it.
story. One of the things too that her youth group would do was go to Ichthus every year, if you're familiar with the Ichthus Festival. And, well, a couple things. Sherry at camp hung around with my sisters. She actually
I met all of his sisters before I
Yeah,
met
she
him.
met all my sisters and didn't know I existed. But I swept her off her feet once or twice or 3 times.
Yeah, we'll call it that.
Yeah.
It was
But,
on purpose, right? You
Yeah.
Yeah.
didn't trip her.
No, he
you,
literally swept me off.
yeah.
But this one year we went to Simpson Park, or not Simpson Park, to Ichthus Festival, and we were driving in. We had a couple different motorhomes that we were driving in, and her mom went on the trip with us, and I got to know her mom real well. We laughed a lot and told a lot of jokes. I can remember, running up to the windshield and pointing out, look, there's a flock of turtles. And they'd, oh, look, to see the flying turtles. So that was a running joke with us for years. But I didn't even know she existed because I knew her mom.
I was in the other motorhome.
She was in the other motorhome. And I got to be good friends with her mom, I thought. I mean, as far
That's
as
how you do it. You get to know their mom.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Okay, I think we should be back. We'll give it a second and see. Give it a second and see. If you can see us, let us know. If you can't,
Hey,
also
we
let
back?
us know. But in that case, you wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
respond to this.
Yes.
All right. We'll wait and maybe see if we got a few. Sorry about that, guys. Our connection just went down. Sometimes those things happen.
Yep.
But thanks for sticking with us. All right, our viewer count is going back up. So hopefully we'll get some people back who dropped off. But all right, now, hey, and they can hear us too. That's nice.
Hey,
All right.
hey.
They can
All
see
good
us. They
things.
can hear us. Those are all positive. Those are all good.
All right.
All right. So where were we? I know you guys were talking about Choco Tacos and drumsticks while
Yeah.
we were away.
Who's bringing the drumsticks over? That's what we want to know.
We were talking about camp. And,
Camp.
well,
No, we're
we had some. You guys were talking about Ichthus, the
Yeah,
Ichthus
yeah, yeah. Ichthus
experience that
Festival
you
and-
guys had. I guess the music festival.
Yeah. Yep.
But we had a few people who were talking about, as you were talking about, not Bayshore. That's just the camp that I'm
Simpson Park.
Simpson Park.
Yep,
That's the one.
yep.
And Danielle says, "Yay, camps!" So many of us made the decision at camps.
Amen. Amen.
This is just a follow up that's in my brain, but what was it about your camp experience that convinced you that Jesus was the one way?
I would say probably the first time was just the emotion of everything that happens at camp. So I think it was more of an emotional reaction than anything. I'm a logical thinker, so I had to spend a lot of years processing that and figuring all of that out. So while I made a commitment, I'm not sure like how strong that was, and then also going home to a church-going family was different. So so I would say it just the emotions that you get tied up
Yeah.
in.
It was at least a first step, even.
Yes.
We
yeah.
definitely know it's not the last step because there is no last step.
And
but
it was enough to keep me wanting to go back year
Yeah.
after year after year. So
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I know everyone's got a different journey and everyone's got a
Right,
different
right.
way of arriving at that. But even if it was emotional, an emotional decision, we're emotional people,
Right.
right?
We are.
No
Well,
matter how logical you are.
Not us logical thinkers.
Well,
but not that emotional.
No matter how logical you are, you still got emotions,
Right,
And they can
right.
still be affected and in a positive way. So Melissa says, so Pastor Denny seemed surprised at you being 12 when you met. Is there a huge age gap?
3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Oh, it's so big.
When you're 12, that's huge.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah.
But when you're our age, it's nothing.
Yeah. 3 years.
So
When did you? Maybe you already said this, but maybe I missed it. When did you start dating?
well, we never really dated outside of camp until
Right. Until
I don't know,
you were
18.
you graduated,
Okay.
weren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So by that time, you were both at least legally adults.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
And so at that point, the age difference just kind of
Right.
Right.
floats
I
away.
think.
Right.
Well,
All
when
right.
you were 18 and I was 21 when we got married.
Yeah, but just short of being 19
Right.
and 22.
Right.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
So
Well, we've got 10 viewers who came back. Well, I guess that would mean like 7 viewers who came back. See, I can do math.
nice.
I can't. So
I just count to 4 over and over again. That's what I
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
people.
Right.
Sometimes 12, but even counting to 12 is just
Yeah.
4. But I can do division.
there you go.
4 and 3 is 12. Anyway.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Let's see. Keep those questions coming. Keep on going. We were talking about Ichthus. It's a music. I don't know if Ichthus is still going on.
yeah, I don't think it is. I mean, it was.
It
up
was for.
until-
it
while-
comes and
while I
goes
was
from
growing
what I've
up.
heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They stopped it for a while and then they tried to revive it a little bit, but the big ticket folks weren't there anymore.
Oh yeah.
Well, now they have the big ticket.
The big ticket
Well,
festival.
yeah, now they
yes.
have the big.
Yeah, festivals. So.
Well, and there was a while in there, and I don't know how many. Did you? I know I was going to a lot of concerts. For
well,
the
Michigan
summer.
started its own. They started the Summerfest.
Yeah,
So that was kind of a little mini
that was
Ichthus.
on the other side of the state.
I know.
right?
Also, there was another one when that kind of I don't know about alongside of Ichthus, but that came around when I was growing up was Acquire the Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But
Yep.
Acquire the Fire, Ichthus, those were the big Christian music
Yeah,
festivals when
yeah,
I was growing
yeah.
up.
Yep.
I don't know if it's still around. Danielle Vachel says it's not still around.
Yeah,
Okay,
I didn't think
okay,
it was,
yeah.
but-
Let's see. Melissa says, I don't know, Peter is 1.5 years older, and it's a huge gap. Yeah. Maybe that means something different. I mean,
Yeah,
between
yeah.
Kelly and I, we have not even an entire year
Yeah.
between us. So, or wait. Sorry, I got to think about this. Is it not even an entire year, or is it a
I don't
little
think so.
more than an
I
entire
think
year?
I think I asked her, and she said it wasn't.
Well, either way, no,
Yeah.
no, it's more than a year.
Is it more than a
little
year?
more than a year? Because I turned 30 and she just turned 29. Well, I
You're
just
the
turned
old
29.
man then. I
Anyway,
guess.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm the old guy.
Right.
But yeah, music festivals. Those used to be a thing that people would
Oh,
actually
yeah.
go to.
Yep, yep.
Remember before we had a global pandemic when people would go to music
Big
festivals?
events.
Yes, yes. Well, the
Well,
big.
and Ichthus was always the same weekend as the Kentucky Derby.
Oh,
Ooh.
So Kentucky was booming
right, right.
when that was going on.
Wow.
But
You had to compete with horse racing.
Right.
Yeah.
but it never failed at Ichthus. They always had one drenching rain.
Right.
So you'd have to walk through the mud to get to the. I mean, they had the. Of course, Kentucky's not flat, so you'd camp on hills and valleys, and you'd wake up with a stream running down your tent.
Yep.
But the atmosphere, the ambiance, the spiritualness of the whole event was phenomenal for for us younger kids anyway. I seen a few, still do see a few of the older folks when you go to concerts like that with their hands over their ears and shaking their heads. But God still works through those things.
Right.
Oh,
So-
sure. Yeah.
In Michigan now we have the big ticket, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's up north somewhere. I haven't been, but I've heard lots of good things on it.
It's definitely somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
not
it's up
nowhere.
north. Yeah.
I thought it
But
was
I
in the
don't-
Grand Rapids area.
Is it Grand Rapids?
I'm not sure.
I'm not
If
sure.
you've heard of the big ticket,
Yeah.
let us know where it's at.
There's one that used to come to the Palace at Auburn Hills. It's more of an arena thing. It's not an
Yeah,
outdoor
yeah.
festival. It's I went with some of the teens from the youth group several years ago, and I can't remember the name of it anymore.
Oh.
The last time I went, David Crowder was still,
Yeah.
doing stuff. I mean, he's still doing stuff now, but
Right,
like he was on
right.
Yeah, I know what you're
the
talking
bill
about because
for
our
that.
son has gone to it
Yeah.
a few times.
It's Stephanie. I know you know what this is called. I can't remember what it's called anymore. Oh my goodness!
Well, when
I
we
follow
were-
their Instagram account. Like I
Yeah.
see it almost every
Right.
day. Anyway,
when we lived in
Instagram,
Indiana, we won tickets to see the Gaither Vocal Band,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
we had we were in the front
Front row.
seats, and when they were, we talked about singing.
yeah.
Yeah,
When
we
they were
in the
singing,
spit
yeah,
section.
we were in the spit section. But the
spray
WFRN, that station down there in Elkhart, Kelly would be familiar with that.
Yeah. Oh, Winter Jam. Winter Jam. That's what it's called.
Yes. Yep.
So, It is obviously not winter jam time right now.
No.
All right, we have a couple questions that just came through. Brian, Sherry, do you have a favorite Bible verse or book?
I have a couple. The one is in Joshua. I don't care who you choose to follow, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
Yep.
So that's kind of been our overarching verse for our family
Yep.
over all these years. And ironically, like every house we move into, every parsonage we've moved into, that has already been there. We moved into one parsonage and it was the door knocker. That verse was on the door knocker. And when we came to visit the parsonage here, they had it hanging outside on their porch. So, and then the other one is in 1 Thessalonians, rejoice, always pray, constantly, give thanks in all circumstances. For this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for the question, Brian. We have Sandy Jones, who said, wives of pastors can take different roles within the church their spouse serves. What kind of role do you take on?
Yeah, that's always funny because
It's always an interesting question.
Yes.
yeah, the first two questions I always get asked at any introduction is, do you play the piano? And no, I really don't. I wish I do, and in my head I really do, but it doesn't translate to my fingers. And then the second one is, do you teach Sunday school? And I don't mind teaching Sunday school, but I teach all week long, and so I'd rather not do that on Sundays as well. So during this pandemic, I've been doing a daily Bible study with a group of women. So it was kind of funny. I just put it out there on Facebook, and I got people that I know from all walks of life and from like multiple states, and some people from each of our churches, and family and coworkers, and so that's been kind of fun to do that.
We even have people from here.
Yeah, I had people from here that joined as well.
Yep.
So so I don't know. I've been kind of looking at the teen stuff because I know that the teens don't have anything right now. So I was looking at that and trying to figure out if I could do like a connect and grow, I guess you would call it, thing for teens. But yeah, I like to do a lot of things. But yeah, whatever I need to do, I do usually.
You're able to serve with your gifts and abilities like anyone else.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And I would say she has a full-time job. She has a mind of her own.
I do.
And if you ask me if she'll do something, my response should be, ask her. She's not that I can't speak for her. She's a very independent lady.
I learned really early on in being a pastor's wife that that I can't do everything. We had small children when Denny first started, and that I learned early that had to be my priority, taking care of them and raising them to be godly people. And I burned myself out really fast doing a lot of things that I didn't necessarily have to do, but I like doing things, and so it was hard to say no. So please don't take it personally if I say no. That's not really what I like to do, because I really am pretty busy. I'm teaching all year, and then in the summer I'm planning for what I'm going to teach in the fall. So like this week and last week I've been doing training to teach a new class, and so it's been pretty intensive.
You mean you just don't wing it?
I do wing a lot of it. That's what gets me in trouble.
Oh no.
Yeah, so.
Whoops.
Yeah,
a lesson plan? I don't know.
You're online probably 3 or 4 hours a day
right
at
now.
this time.
Yeah,
right.
Probably
for your class.
More than
So
that.
yeah.
So.
It's a lot of classes.
Yeah, but I'll be done Friday, so I'll be happy.
Nice.
Yes.
A little bit of a reprieve
until
you get into your planning mode.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I can only speak for myself, but I know just in my experience of being at churches who have pastors with wives, and also being someone who has been in vocational ministry, is that I never myself want to assume that anyone's family member or spouse will just do something because their spouse is on staff at a church. So if I ever accidentally make that assumption by something I say, just say, making too many assumptions.
Oh, I will let you know.
Oh, I
I
figured.
always tell
Yeah.
people I'm not the
She's not-
typical pastor's wife, and I apologize for that right up front. But
Oh, please don't apologize for
yeah,
that.
so
All right. Well, we've got a few more questions. Brian Weber, full of questions. Please keep them coming. That's not that. Please keep
Is that
asking
an
questions.
invitation?
I can't because I'm not a member yet.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's true.
There
Well,
you go.
I don't think he's a member either.
I'm not sure about all of the inner
All the
workings
inners
Ins
and
and
outs,
outs
inners and
of
outs
the
of that.
committees.
So.
Yeah.
I think that the rules are different for depending on what role you take.
Yeah.
And
And
I'm
what
not
the
a
needs-
member only because I just haven't transferred my membership
Yeah.
yet. So
And then I know this is Brian Troutman, even though he goes by the screen name Tommy Jones. Where did I miss where you teach?
yeah, I teach at Port Huron High. So we have two
Red.
high schools in Port Huron. I teach at
You're
the
a big red.
Yeah, I'm a
right?
Big Red. Not Chip Valley Big Red.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Huron
say
High Big
I think
Red.
that was the shirt you were wearing in the thumbnail.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the
Because
yeah,
it was Red
yeah.
Red Sunday, and we're red.
Yes.
So
Oh,
that's-
yeah.
I
there you
have
go.
a whole drawer full of red clothes.
That's
I
right.
stole that from your Facebook profile picture.
Yeah, okay.
So
That's
that was
fine.
I was gonna ask permission to use a different picture. I'm like, well, this one's already out on the internet, so I
There
figured
you go.
this is probably the one that I
It's
can
the one
use.
I put on the church's Facebook for
Is it?
for the Pentecost Sunday.
Oh.
Anyways.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, Port Huron. So when you're not teaching online, you would commute up there.
Yes. Yeah.
But we haven't done that. She hasn't done that yet,
Not
really.
yet.
Well, but I mean, I have because I was doing food distribution for 2 days every
Yeah.
week for 2 months. So it's not too bad of a commute. I think it was a longer commute when we lived in Brown City, actually, because it was all
Really?
back roads. And
Oh,
this is
oh,
all,
yeah.
Right.
I can
This
jump
is all
right
highway.
on the expressway and get up there pretty fast.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about Brown City. I'm still my map of Michigan is still limited to Southeast Michigan and the Detroit area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've only lived in this area in Michigan, so
yeah.
Yep.
of course I have a little bit of knowledge of up in the thumb.
Yeah. Well, that's where Brown City
Right
is.
smack dab in the
right in the
middle
middle
of
of
the
the
thumb.
thumb.
Okay, yeah, I guess that would be longer to get to.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like she said, there's no
Mile-wise,
expressway.
I think they're about the same,
Yeah.
but time-wise.
Yeah. A follow-up from both Brians, two different follow-ups. He says, right, you don't have to be a member to be a trustee.
Right.
Okay. Darn. Thought that was going to be
right.
my excuse.
That's right.
I think another valid excuse is I don't want to.
Yeah.
That's the answer I get a lot of times when I ask people is I don't want to. It's
I-
a valid excuse.
I
It's not
remember-
even an excuse. It's just a reason.
I remember learning from somebody one time that that when you step in and do everything, you're robbing others of their blessings. So
There we
I don't
go.
want to rob someone else of their blessing of
There we
being a
go.
trustee.
That's a good thing to keep in mind. That's
Yeah.
one of the
You don't have to say yes to everything
Yeah.
because there are other people that should be doing it.
there
Yep,
are
there
others
you
that
go.
and even when there are things that you're compelled to want to do,
Right.
that's been sort of one of my personal guiding philosophies is I want to equip others to do the work
Right.
instead of always being the one stepping in and
Yep.
no one will ever know something doesn't have or that there's ever a need that needs to be filled if I'm always filling it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And burning out in the meantime.
Yes.
Right.
That's not good for anybody. The other follow-up from Brian Weber, nope, we just talked about Brian Weber. Brian Troutman, having a hard time. We only have two Brians. You think I'd have an easier time with this.
Right.
May I ask how you bring Christ to your kids in a public school?
Yeah, that's always interesting. I taught 6 years in a Catholic school, and it was much easier there. In the public school, it really is just through the way that I live my life and the way that I treat people and the way that I treat them. I don't ever openly talk about it because we're just not, it's not the right forum for that. But kids always know. So if I can't even tell you how many times a kid has come up and said, hey, you seem like the type that would pray, my grandma's really sick. Can you please pray for her? And so I think it's just more through the way that I live my life rather than what I talk about with them. So,
Yeah.
Well, and they've had at the Port Huron schools over the last year or last couple years, you've had kids who committed suicide.
yeah, we had 2 suicides in 1 week.
And-
Which was devastating. I don't ever want to go through anything like that again.
But I think you were a calming influence, even over the teachers
Yeah, maybe.
at that time.
Maybe not as much as the service dogs.
Yeah.
The
yeah.
comfort dogs, they might have
Right.
been a little bit more
Right.
comforting than me.
It's hard to compete with dogs. When
It
it
Right,
comes to
is.
comfort.
right.
It's really hard. Well, and on top of the 2 suicides, my sister had passed away just 2 months before that.
Right.
So it was a really rough time.
Right.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
rough.
Yeah, it was a rough year.
Yeah. Well, just got very heavy very quickly.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
Sorry.
that's
Sorry.
okay.
Yep.
You know, whether these questions take turns for the serious or the silly, you know, they're all valid questions.
Well,
So-
where I teach, I have kids that have a lot of bad things in their lives. Like they literally don't know where they're going to sleep tonight. They don't know if they're going to eat tonight.
hence the food distribution.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know, so it's a really different population of student, and so you know, I help when I can and provide things if they need them. But
Yeah. Brian Weber says lifestyle evangelism is important.
yeah,
I would say equally important with it is co-equal in importance with using your words.
Right.
Right. Right.
And especially sometimes where your words are not as free to fly.
Right.
It's definitely no one can stop you from living for Christ, even if the words you got to use are a little different.
Right. Right.
Yep.
So.
All right, well, keep those questions coming. Let's see. Have to say, Stephanie says, I have to say, you have a great smile.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, this is Q&A, not comment and A.
I'll
Okay?
take it.
No, it's yeah.
I'd like to say I always smile, but that is not
Yeah.
You're someone
I
who thinks
can-
logically. That can't always be true.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Attached
right.
to that.
All right. Yeah. So what has been your greatest joy as a teacher? This is just a question from me.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, gosh, there have been so many. It's so hard. Every year it's something different. You know, I like I said, I taught in the Catholic school for 6 years, and when we moved back to Michigan, I would have stayed there forever, except that we were getting poorer every year because we just weren't I wasn't making any money. But a couple of those kids that I taught there contacted me many years later as adults, and you know, just dropped me a note saying, "Hey, I just wanted you to know that I'm a teacher because of you." And you know, that was really, that meant a lot to me for them to do that. So one of them went a really traditional route to become a teacher, and one of them went a really non-traditional route of being an engineer and then going back through Teach America. So yeah.
Wow, that's I mean, that's huge when someone says that they
Yeah.
want to take
Right,
your
right.
your
Right.
example of doing your job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Made me want to be you,
Yeah.
basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think back to who those teachers were that influenced me, and that, you know, there are two really distinct teachers that influenced me as well. So
Yeah. This is kind of packaged in a little bit of what you were saying, but can you just reiterate what subject you teach?
I teach math, mostly Algebra 2 recently, but I've taught every math class that we offer except for stats. And I teach engineering. So I teach 3 different levels of engineering. So I'm adding the 3rd one this year, and that's the training that I'm going through right now.
Is it a general engineering or like mechanical?
Yeah, so one of them is kind of called Principles of Engineering, and so it's kind of an overview. We do some robotic stuff. We do statics, you know, testing trusses and doing all that kind of stuff. And then the 2nd year class, or it's actually the 3rd year class, is computer integrated manufacturing. So we use CNC machines, and we do some robotic arm stuff, and make manufacturing process lines, so those kind of things.
Have you started integrating 3D printers into any
Oh
of that?
yeah, we have 3D printers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yep. And then this last one that I'm going to be teaching is kind of the capstone course. So it's more of engineering design, and so they will work on designing some solution to a problem, and they'll work on that all year. But it's their choosing. So
That's really cool.
yeah,
I mean, some days I wish I went through and did more STEM stuff.
Yeah.
I think I said before that there was a point in my life where I thought I wanted to do software engineering, different type of engineering,
Right.
but still. But I got to tell you, one of the guiding factors for me, that aside from having a whole slew of things that pointed to needing to go into ministry, was I just was not that good at math.
Yeah.
And I know there's ways to get better and to go around that,
Right.
but ooh, buddy, when you talk about math classes specifically, that there's still something inside of me that like recoils a little
Yeah.
bit. So
It's because you never had me as a math teacher.
That's right.
That's why.
Brian Troutman says, my sister teaches math in East Detroit. I got to get her to talk to you.
Yeah.
There you
we
go.
Making connections,
Yeah.
connections. And then we have Brian Weber, who says electrical engineering is my game.
Oh,
it used to be.
so-
I would
so
say
I-
it's still pretty much is, Brian.
I have like a cool story about electrical engineering. So that is my least favorite thing, the electrical stuff.
no.
I'm really bad at the electrical stuff, and so that's my goal, is to get better at that. But this last year, my principal came to me and said, "Hey, there's going to be this engineer in town. Like, he's from NASA, and he's going to be in town, and they want to know if you want him to come in and talk to your class." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not? All right." And we didn't know anything about the guy at all. And so then the day that he was showing up, the day before, they sent some promotional information, and I started Googling him and finding out about him. And there was another person that was coming too that they didn't tell me about. And so I started just looking up what their story was. And he wasn't only from NASA, he was the chief electrical engineer of NASA. So he was like really, really cool. And he was not coming here to talk about NASA. He was coming here to talk about the Tuskegee Airmen, which was totally way off from engineering, but it was so cool because I never knew this. The Tuskegee Airmen actually did training along the St. Clair River, and they trained along Port Huron, and they had I don't know, 12 or 20 of their planes that crashed in the river that they've never recovered. And these two guys were divers as well. They were divers that was their hobby. And they found two of the Tuskegee Airmen wreckage sites. And so they were actually in town because they were raising money to build a Tuskegee Airmen memorial in Port Huron. And so they're going to come back in August to unveil that. So I'm hoping to reconnect with both of them in August. But yeah, so we had these two guys. The one was a world-renowned diver. Like, he had just come back from Madagascar. And then they brought along their friend who was an archaeologist, professor at UC Berkeley. So they brought in three pretty big name people that we didn't know who they were, but he did do a little talk about his electrical engineering at NASA, though.
Well, that was nice.
Yeah.
He dropped that that little tidbit.
I think I was more excited about the whole thing than the students. But it was pretty cool.
That's fascinating. I didn't know about the Tuskegee
No,
Airmen.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
So it was really, really interesting.
I'm also fascinated with aviation. I wanted to be a pilot when I was much younger. It's another conversation Brian Weber and I have had. But yeah, that's I would be curious to know what actually crashed into the river.
Yeah, no, they found the planes.
Yeah.
So they had pictures of the wreckage. They're in undisclosed locations because they don't want anybody to disturb them. They're protected.
Tell everyone where they're at, and they're going to go looking for it themselves. Buried treasure.
Yeah,
Sunken treasure.
And the really cool thing about it was this dive team that came in was an all-black dive team. And so that was really the connection in the Tuskegee Airmen. It was really, really cool. And they were able to identify who the pilots were based on the call numbers of the plane.
Wow.
So they had pictures like the tire was still inflated. They had the wing sections. I mean, the control panels, everything was really well preserved.
Do you know what planes they were?
I don't.
Whatever
they were flying at the time. I don't know.
All right, we got a few more questions, comments. Brian Weber said, least favorite, so sad.
I know, I'm sorry. Maybe you can teach me something about it. It's the electrical circuits. I'm just terrible at it.
Hey, those are all logic circuits, basically.
I know.
You gotta.
I know. Red with red, black with black. I know. And then they give me white and black wire instead of red and black.
Yeah,
And it throws me off. So.
Melissa Jones says, I had a great math teacher for 4 of my 5 math classes in high school. Well, I will say, at least if you're making a comment about what I was saying, it was at least 98% on me, the issues that I had in school.
Yeah.
I didn't care enough in high school. I really didn't.
I want to know why you had 5 math classes in high school.
Melissa is also in engineering. So, there's a good reason why behind. Melissa, what kind of engineering are you? Is it chemical engineering? I know you've explained this to me at least 3 or 4 times.
I'm recording all these engineers so that I can bring you up to my classrooms.
Yep. Beware. She's going to talk to you, Brian
I need
and
an
Melissa.
engineer panel to judge my capstone projects.
There you go.
Oh,
So-
there you go. There you go. And then Stephanie just saying very interesting story. And it sounds like you're full of a lot of good stories.
Oh, I have a lot.
Yeah. And
I've lived a lot of life, as they say.
Yeah.
Melissa says that she does industrial engineering.
Oh, okay.
Industrial,
All right.
okay.
I think that's why I keep thinking it's mechanical, is because I equate in my head mechanical and industrial as, it's mechanical stuff that happens in industry.
Right.
And that's not always true. But anyway, keep questions coming. Maybe we can, I know I asked you what one of your greatest joys have been. Are you able to delve into maybe what have been some of your greatest challenges as a teacher, or even in how it relates to being a part of a ministry family? I know that you are not just because you're the wife of a pastor doesn't mean that you're automatically in there, but there are unique challenges that come with that. So whether it's as a teacher or as someone who has been a part of the church or churches, what have been some challenges?
Yeah, so probably the biggest challenge was before Denny became a pastor. And our kids, when they were really little, they were really bad at church. They were good everywhere else. They were terrible at church. Like, they would not stop talking. They would run around. One Sunday, our oldest got up. Our church met in an old movie theater, and he got up to the front and got underneath the stage. And so the pastor had to go down on one side, and I had to go the other side and try to coax him out. And then he had to send his son underneath to get him. And, they were just bad kids at church. And I remember...
Well, we need to let them know that I was usually leading or
Worship.
singing or leading worship.
Yeah.
So
I think that's why I became part of the worship team, so that someone else could deal with my kids during service. But nobody ever wanted to because they were so bad. And we were looking for a babysitter, and nobody wanted to do it. And this one lady at church finally said, well, she would try it. And she's like, your kids are so good. I just know what they look like on Sunday, but outside of Sunday, they are so good. I'm like, I know. And the people at the church, all they would offer was, you just need to make them behave. I'm like, would you please tell me how to do that? Like, I take them out, I spank them, I talk to them, I put them in timeout. I do all the things that people tell me to do. Just please tell me. I don't know how to make that happen. And so then
Did you try the leash?
Yeah, the leash or leaving them home was probably the better option. But so when Denny became a pastor, all of a sudden, when they started going to school, all those behaviors changed. And when he became a pastor, they all of a sudden were like night and day, different kids. they were good. Like they all. I don't think anybody where we went to church when we lived in Indiana would believe that my kids probably aren't in jail. Because they were acted so bad, but they settled down and they all serve the Lord, and they're all responsible adults and have jobs, and are respectful and
well, most of the time anyway.
Yeah, and I just always say
everyone's got their moments.
It's just from the grace of God. Like, it was nothing that I think we did. I think it's just God's grace on our kids.
Amen.
That they were destined
praying grandparents.
Praying grandparents, and that they were destined for something more. And I mean, the Lord had bigger plans for them.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that Ruth is probably watching and thinking, oh man, telling stories about how
she tells stories.
She'll be chiming in pretty soon if she's watching.
Right. Sandy hasn't. We are getting close to the end of our time, but Sandy says, Pastor Denny has had challenges getting to know our congregation's members. Have you been able to meet many people?
No, I haven't. I've met several of you on Facebook because you have generously friended me on Facebook, and so I see your faces there. And I've only probably met a handful of
You
people.
came over that one day for the Bible study we were having.
Yep, I just
Met a
popped
few
into the
there.
Bible study just to say hi, and then I had to pop back to my class. But
Yeah.
and just people that have somebody snuck some flowers onto our back deck, and so we met
Yeah.
them, and just those kind of things. I met some of the neighbors, that don't go to the church, but just because they're out walking every day,
Mhm.
and I'm outside a lot, and so I just strike up conversations with them. But
Stop by anytime.
yeah, anybody can stop by anytime. I was thinking about doing a little, I'm going to be in my yard during these times, stop in and see me. But I didn't know if anybody would show up,
Yeah.
and then I would feel really bad if nobody did. So.
I know, you're working full time. You're
Yeah.
you're really busy with that. So I know it's probably been an extra challenge where not only are our usual things not happening, but at least from what I've heard from a lot of people, it's kind of that trapped in feeling. Even if I
Yeah.
wanted to do
Yeah.
something, I couldn't do it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do trapped in very well, so I was not a good quarantine partner. I had to go out every day, even if it was just to go get a McDonald's pop. I had to go out every day. So I didn't really go see anybody. I just had to be out of the house.
Yeah.
So
Had to get away from me.
no, just that trap feeling.
Well, we're slowly coming out of it.
Yeah,
slowly
right.
coming out of
Slowly
it. So
coming out.
a new day is dawning,
Amen.
and even though a new day is dawning, the time of our live stream is coming to a close. It
All
is
right.
setting.
Okay.
I guess that would be the right metaphor to
Right.
use.
Yeah.
We are coming to a close. So, do you have any thoughts? Anything that you wanna? I know we had a big old. I keep looking up here. You guys can't see that. We had a big old gap where we lost connection, and so it's okay if we go a little over time. But do you have any final thoughts you want to give us? Anything that's been on your mind?
No, I don't really think so. I'm so focused on just getting through day to day that it was kind of nice because we were trapped at home and we got unpacked a lot earlier this time than
Yeah.
we normally do.
Although we
But,
still have a few boxes
yeah.
that aren't unpacked yet.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting everybody, and I'm looking forward to the picnic.
July 5th,
July
July
5th,
5th.
the
Yeah.
picnic, yeah.
12:30.
So I'm probably looking forward to that more than church services, but I probably shouldn't say that.
You could say that.
she listens to me all the time.
I do,
So.
yeah. I do watch every Sunday. Most of the time I watch it live, but sometimes I don't. So
I think that's okay.
Yeah.
this past Sunday I just totally forgot, and I was busy working on homework for my class, and all of a sudden it was like 11:30, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'll watch it later.
I don't call it not live. I call it on a delay.
There
Yeah,
you go.
right,
There you
right.
go.
I mean, you're a logical person, and so I always think about it this way: everything we experience is already delayed
Right.
from our senses. We don't know that our senses took anything in until
Right.
a few milliseconds later.
Right.
So it's just a little bit more of a delay.
Right.
That's all it is. That's all it is. Well, we are at the end of our time. It is 7:32. Just changed. 7:32 now. Pastor Denny, do you have any final thoughts? And then after that, would you like to lead us in a closing prayer?
Final thoughts. I met this lady many years ago, and I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, just like any relationship, we have our ups and downs. But she's a godly woman. She's got a strong faith. We do the best we can.
That's right.
And,
We're not perfect.
And she will let me know when I get something wrong. Just so you know that. Any of the stories that I tell that you'll be hearing over the next few years, she'll be back in the back of the sanctuary shaking her head, yes or no, if I got it right or wrong. So, but I thank God for her. I thank God for the way she has contributed to raising our children. It's, again, but for the grace of God on that juncture. But she's a good partner, a great partner, and I wouldn't change a thing. So thank you for sharing with us
Yeah, thanks for
tonight.
having me.
I hope everybody got a little bit of a taste of what I get to see every day. And
Good or bad.
good or bad, good or bad. Well, she has to deal with me too, so it goes both ways. But let's just have a word of prayer. before we call it a day. Heavenly Father, again, I thank you for Sherry, and I thank you for her desire to serve you with all her heart. Even though it may not be in a quote-unquote Christian position, she's serving you with all her heart in the schools, bringing Christ as best she can to those who need help, who need love, who need prayer. I ask, Lord, that you continue to use her, continue to give her the strength for each and every day and the wisdom that she needs to take care of our kids and me as well. And just bless us all this evening as we continue to learn to fall on you for everything we need. Be with us in Jesus' name. Amen.